take a break and open up the town hall, which has the only bathroom facility. If anyone should need it in advance of that, just come to the front here and I'll give you the key. So you can go ahead and take care of your situation. Okay, I'm bringing to order the regular meeting of the Luther Town Board. Invocation. Are you winded or can you do it? Okay.
Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for another beautiful day. Thank you for the chance to serve this great community. Yes, and guide us and lead us and with wisdom and discernment of every decision that we make that will further this community and further your role for us and get to know us. We ask you to give grace and mercy to this nation. Heal it. Just correct all the wrongs that are considered right now. In Jesus' name, I pray this. Amen.
Pledge of allegiance. Salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call. Josh? Here. Brian? Here. Gary's here. Jeff? Here. Carla?
Here.
We have a forum. Approval of the consent agenda. Has everybody had an opportunity to review the minutes of the meeting, the budgetary items that are there? And, review of acting treasurer's report. Any questions? Any objections? Then I move that we pass the consent agenda. Josh, excuse me, Jeff, second.
Terry?
Yes?
Brian?
Yes.
Carla? Yes. Jeff?
Yes.
And Josh?
Yes. Okay, trustee comments, none. We're going to press on with the meeting because I suspect this one may run just a tad longer than normal. A consideration, discussion, possible action to pledge an additional $36,000 in matching funds for the town of Luther CDBG sewer line and manhole replacement project. That essentially that project is three different problematic areas in our aging sewer system that was bid on, and it came in $36,000 over the estimated budget. And we got a low bid. We have accepted the low bid, and it's still $36,000. And so we believe that it's in the town's best interest to go ahead and plus up the money in addition to our matching money for the grant to complete that project for the welfare of the town. I move that we pass 9 as written.
Second.
All right, Terry?
Yes?
Brian?
Yes.
Carla? Yes. Jeff?
Yes.
Josh?
Yes. Item 10, consideration, discussion, possible action to award a bid on the Town of Luther CDBG sewer line and manhole replacement project to Utility Field Services LLC and authorize the mayor to execute all contracts and other documents required for award of the bid. Utility Field Services LLC is a well-known service that was recommended to us by the engineering company, and they did present the low bid. So that's the $36,000 award winner. I move that we pass 10 as written. Second.
Sorry, let me finish writing. Okay, Terry?
Yes?
Brian?
Yes.
Carla? Yes. Jeff?
Yes.
And Josh?
Yes. Presentation discussion on an event involving Luther police officers on December 8th, 2021, including damage to the police cars following shots fired by a suspect in here. This is information only for the public, which is much greater than normal, that our officers responded, part of a mutual aid agreement with Oklahoma County, to a problem outside the district, that Captain Fetters showed up, and very soon after exiting his vehicle, if not immediately, he was fired upon. A bullet struck nearby, hitting the vehicle, one of our police vehicles, and ultimately multiple units from our department responded prior to the county getting there. That they stabilized the situation, established a perimeter. When the county arrived, I recommended, and it turned out I was too late, the police chief here had already recommended that since it was outside the jurisdiction, that they provide support but draw back from the perimeter and allow county to take responsibility for their own actions. They did so, and ultimately, no further violence was perpetrated. The individual continued shooting, but eventually was talked down, and with sharpshooters present and ready to take care of any circumstance that may arise, those circumstances didn't, and it was peacefully resolved. The individual was taken into custody and also taken for psychiatric evaluation, I believe, and essentially the best possible solution for something like that occurred. Are there any questions on that? Okay. Number 12, consideration, discussion, possible action to adopt resolution 2021-20R, a resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Town of Luther, Oklahoma, setting the regularly scheduled meeting of the Board of Trustees for calendar year 2022. This is something that by law has to be done every year for all of our boards that meet regularly. It has to be done before the end of the year, and there's a schedule as part of our package here, and essentially it's every second Tuesday throughout the year, except for possibly December, which if that falls too close to Christmas, it will sometimes be done a week early. But I believe it's just every second Tuesday throughout the year. I move that we pass 12 as written.
Second.
Terry?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Carla?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Josh?
Yes.
13, consideration, discussion, and possible action to renew the contract with Cabin Consulting for the Town of Luther website domain renewal, hosting, backups, software updates, and security for the calendar year 2022 in the amount of $600. Cabin Consulting's been working with us for some time. They've done a fine job. I move that we pass item 13 as written.
Terry?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Carla?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Josh?
Yes.
Item 14, consideration, discussion, possible action to approve renewal of employees' health insurance with Blue Cross Blue Shield of Oklahoma for calendar year 2022. I'm still not sure. Do our employees have the option of one of two policies? Okay, that's with Blue Cross Blue Shield. Essentially, it's a gold. Everybody always makes their policies gold, platinum, unobtainium, something. And so with the two plans, essentially give our employees some latitude as how much they pay, but they also gives them a difference in the benefits that they receive. And that will be up to the employee. These are the best two plans that we're proposing, and I move that we pass 14 as written.
Second.
Terry?
Yes?
Brian?
Yes.
Carla?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Josh?
Yes.
15, consideration, discussion, and possible action to renew the town's annual membership to the Oklahoma Route 66 Association in the amount of $49. $49. I move that we pass this as written.
Second.
There's a tie, we'll give that to Brian. Terry?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Carla?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
And Josh?
Yes.
16, consideration, discussion, and possible action to renew the agreement with Luther Public Schools for annual lease of the baseball field at Wild Horse Park. What was the amount of the lease last year?
500.
And what is the amount of the lease this year?
500.
Then I move that we pass 16 as written.
Second.
Terry?
Yes?
Brian?
Yes.
Carla?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Josh?
Yes.
Okay, then we're gonna move on to item 17. Item 17, consideration, discussion, and possible action to amend the Town of Luther Fire Department subscription program as set forth in resolution number 2021-13R.
Pretty good. Sir,
And
sir, there's chairs over here you can set up real quick for yourself and those that are coming. If they're not enough. Go ahead, please.
that's okay. If you need it, it's in your book. Reason why I brought this up is from talking to some of the citizens in town, or should I say out of town, and doing a little bit of my own work. The reason why I was wanting to bring this up is I have decided upon myself that I feel like, number one, our fee is too high. And would like to reduce that fee. Chief is ill,
That's unfortunate.
and it is very unfortunate, because I would have liked for him to be here.
Sure you would like to be here as well.
Okay, there were, you have
If
more
you
to,
need it.
more to contribute?
I have more to contribute on that. As with also speaking with some of them, I believe, and I don't want to jump too far ahead because of item 18, it actually falls into the same category. We're not notifying as well as we possibly could have to let them know what was going on and what we were doing here, even though we posted out in 4 different places. It's put on our website, it's put out around town to get people into our meetings. One of my biggest things is to have a group like this every month. I would love to have a group like this every month, because you are all citizens of Luther.
Amen.
No, we're not.
There, maybe the words are important, and I had the good fortune to present some awards to some middle school kids. And one of the things I spoke to them about is there's 2 words, and sometimes people make them synonymous. And there's residents, that's people that live in Luther, who can also be citizens, and then there's citizens of Luther who are contributors to the town. And so, from my perspective, and I failed to as yet write a little article or anything in the Luther Register, that if you live within the town limits, absolutely, you're a resident of town Luther. If you live within the fire district, you have an interest, you're part of the town of Luther, and absolutely belong here as you are tonight, to go ahead and listen to, discuss, and give contribution to any issue that's of interest to you. If you are in the school district, which is bigger yet by far, but if there are school district issues that you wish to address before the Board of Trustees, because I'm in touch with the superintendent of schools and discuss, and he's responsible for the schools, but yet we coordinate his actions, and if there are concerns about the school district that you want to take, bring to this board as well as to the superintendent and his board, then you're absolutely welcome here, and I want your input so that I can have an idea or get a pulse on what the community is feeling like. And so the school district's well outside, way outside the town limits of Luther, and yet I still consider you Luther. You have an interest here. Fact is, if you even shop here, if you're coming into this town and doing business, and you're concerned about economic development, you're in the town of Luther. If you're showing an interest, if this is your town, one way or the other, then the fact that you are not within the town limits, which can change as a result of annexation, de-annexation, dissolution of the town as a municipal entity, any of those things are possible. I don't think any of them are immediately probable, but I still want to hear, I think the board wants to hear your input. You're right, you're not residents, but you certainly are citizens, and as evidenced by the fact that you were impacted by the decision that we made.
Right now.
Okay.
Well, as a trustee, and just like our fire department, I'm a volunteer. I don't get paid to sit here. I'm not asking to get paid. I do this because I care about the town that I live in. I'm a junkie. I've always been that way. That's just something that I've always done. I want to know what's going on in my town. I want to know what's happening with the money that I'm spending there. Just call me a door. But I feel very strongly about our fire department and where it is going. I want to see our fire department excel. It's actually standing out. It's doing better. We're growing. The town of Luther is going to continue to grow as well. After listening, and I have spoke with Brandy. Is that you? No. No, you're Brandy. Okay. I have spoke with Brandy, and I received her letter along with another letter that I received. And I did some of my own questioning of things. And a lot of things actually made sense. It made sense to me, because not only am I here for the town of Luther, I'm also a citizen, and I've got to listen to citizens. And we never had anybody come in here for any reason, but we also did not, if you don't know, you don't know. If you don't go on there regularly, you're not gonna go on there regularly. We should have brought that to your attention. Y'all are right, people wrong. Call me beginner's luck, or beginner's, I'm gonna have issues with it. I've got problems. And I wanna try to make that right. Anything that we have done, I'm not saying it can't be changed, because in my opinion, I feel like it can be. And I'd like to kind of just almost wipe it clean and just start all over. And of course, that will be, you know, with representation of our attorney as well. But I do feel as though that the fee that we put on here to start it is too high. We have discussed it a lot, but without getting any kind of input, it did make it very hard with just contacting other towns, trying to find out towns that have the same fire district size. And that's where we kind of pulled the number from. I'm gonna ask the board to try to get this reduced down to $150 for outside of town. Inside of town will be set at $100. The money that is gathered from this will be to support the fire department for their gear. We'd love to, you know, if we need to help out, get new fire hydrants, set out an extra water tower so that we have something out closer to where some of y'all are at. That way it's easier access. That's where this is supposed to be, you know, in the long run, where it's gonna go. It's not going into our pockets, it's not going into a chief's pockets, it's going out to do that. I will be talking to the fire department also, because it was brought to my attention that tax dollars from the unincorporated areas, and this was a question that I had. How do we know, do people outside of jurisdiction pay more in taxes than the in-town Luther people? Or is there a difference?
I think it depends on the type of tax. Now, obviously, if someone from outside the limits comes in and buys a gallon milk, then they're going to be contributing to the sales tax base, because that is imposed regardless. The ad valorem taxes, the answer is it depends, because you're gonna have a levy for the county taxes, and then depending upon whether or not the town has general obligation bonds, depending upon whether or not the town has like a judgment, because municipalities can't and don't use, they can't, but they don't utilize the ad valorem or the property taxes for operational purposes. They have the ability to do that, but most of the time the county sets up all that. So I wish I could give you a hard and fast explanation. I haven't looked at the estimate of needs to see what the difference is, but it just depends on what, if any, property taxes are being allocated to the town of Luther.
So, because that was one of my questions, is like, I don't know if it's the school tax or what that actually goes towards it.
And it all depends. It depends on what school district you're in, whether or not you're in the town limits, what, if anything, the town levies for purposes of taxes, of property taxes. There are a variety of factors that play into that.
I don't mean to put you on the spot, but does the town currently levy anything for property taxes?
I don't know. My guess would be no.
I believe that the answer is no.
Yeah,
And that
my
would
guess
be-
is no.
That would be something that, once again, because the fire district extends, as Brandy, I think you pointed out, there's people that are in town and on public works. There's people that are on the edge of town or outside town that may be benefited by public works. And then there are those that are completely independent on wells and septic, and other than trash, and maybe not even trash, they receive nothing. They take no services and pay no fees to the town. And so then their only contribution would be in sales tax if in fact they shop here as opposed to Wellston, Edmond, Jones, one of the other municipalities. And then one of the things that I know that my predecessor tried to avoid, and I would like to try and avoid it as well, is assessing taxes on the basis of property to go ahead and support any portion of the operation of the town. It seems to me as a property owner that when you assess taxes on property, that you pay a mortgage for however many years, 20, 25, 30 years, and at the end of it you go, I own my property. No, you don't. You're renting it from whoever has got tax liability on that property, or you've got the liability, who's ever collecting the taxes. And I try and avoid that so that the people of Luther, wish I could do it statewide, when they own their property, they own their property. But that's outside my purview. I've got a very, very little sphere of influence here in Luther. And so yes, I would try and avoid any further taxation in that manner. But then, there are some people that would say that this subscription is in fact. Okay. You were the author of the letter she's referring to, Randy?
I was the author of a letter.
She was a
to
big
each
letter
board-
that I
each-
have here.
Each board member received the same information.
Yes.
And so, so what she's referring to from me, you all have received and hopefully read.
And I did, and I seem to recall you said that you polled other cities.
I did my research, yes.
Okay.
And I collected data, and I have all of that to provide to you today.
And once again, I've been distracted by other concerns, and therefore never got back to you to say that, if you could provide a list of those cities and what those that had subscriptions and what their subscriptions were. I'm sure you.
If you do have those, do you have them with you?
Yes,
Would you mind sharing them?
I don't mind. Is now when you would like to hear from me,
Yes,
or is
please.
later when you
You're
would like to
first
hear
on
from
the
me?
list.
You are
Okay.
first on the list, so now is when we would like to hear from you.
And thank you for being receptive to my letter.
No, absolutely.
And calling me back and inquiring as well as you, Mr. Schwarzmeier. This I'm just providing to you today is a different letter than what I provided to you earlier. The reason I'm giving that to you, I'm going to read that. I would like for everyone in the audience to hear that as well. I'm going to read that to you. I wrote it down because sometimes I can get off track, and you don't have all night, and I don't have all night. And we really need to get to the point. And I wanted you to have this for reference, as if you'll turn it over. That's where I found, of the districts that I contacted or found their information online, that's just a small sampling of them. Any of you can do the same and find out different information from different districts. So, I will just proceed with my letter and we'll get to the point. Board of Trustees, thank you for your time and service. I have been in contact with each of you by email, phone, or in person, and I appreciate you listening to my concerns. I'm requesting action on the fire subscription, specifically amending it to a voluntary $25 fee that does not have any negative repercussions should someone not subscribe. The subscription is not voluntary if fees are attached for those not subscribing. That word voluntary is not used in its true essence when you attach fees if you don't subscribe. It's stated in the letter sent to residents that if you are enrolled in the subscription, your insurance will be billed if the fire department responds to your property. You will not be charged for costs not covered by your insurance. It also states that if you do not voluntarily, which I use loosely, subscribe, your insurance will be billed and you will be responsible for any costs not covered by your insurance. If you do not voluntarily subscribe and have no insurance, and this incident happened in our community here a week or two ago, you will be responsible for all of the costs. I do realize our fire department can benefit from community support. It's unfortunate that fire subscription passed by the board in August has gained some negative attention. Specifically, the negative attention that it has gained, based on my talks with other citizens in the community, is that the $250 fee is inflated, grossly inflated. Assessing penalty fees for those that don't subscribe and encounter a fire or medical event, I feel is egregious. Passing this ordinance that impacts residents outside town limits, essentially taxation without representation. Those of us in the unincorporated area had no representation when this subscription fee was put in place. There's been zero attempt to contact unincorporated residents regarding fire department needs prior to passing the ordinance and sending a letter. I know that some of you will disagree with that, but those of us in the unincorporated area do not make it, I should not speak for everyone here, I do not make it a habit to routinely follow town business that I don't live in. Segregating the fire district and only requiring those outside town limits to subscribe. I'm not certain why we would segregate a fire district and impose different amounts on in-town and out-of-town, or even institute it for part of the citizens and not all of the fire district. I'm confused about that. Recognize that Oklahoma County does provide fire trucks and vehicle maintenance currently to our volunteer fire department per a yearly agreement with the town, and this is done, from my understanding, in lieu of giving tax dollars to the town, and this represents contributions from those of us in the unincorporated area. Simply stated, the unincorporated area has always contributed to the fire department. Subscription fees are put into the general fund. This is another area of contention with many people in the community. And they're not appropriated for specific use that would result in improved fire protection. There are no safeguards that are put in place that can ensure to us as citizens that spending is dictated and will be spent on specific items. When you say for the fire department, that's an extremely broad term that really we can all make a lot of things fit under that umbrella. Narrowing that down, or some discussion about narrowing that down to some specific things, would be very helpful. Currently, there's no clear plan for transparency and accountability related to subscription funds collected and how they will be reported as used. I have not been able to find a current monthly fire report, and they're not readily available online. Things such as making your public and your citizens aware of call volume, location of calls, are those inside city limits in the unincorporated area? Types of calls, are they fire, medical, or fall assists? Equipment needs, monthly expenses, number of volunteers and credentials, continuing education. What grants have been applied for? What grants have been received? Fundraisers, voluntary contributions, etc. Those are all things that could be included in your monthly fire report that would help apprise us citizens of what exactly is going on, and then we would have much less questions for you as to what's happening in the department, where is the money going, what's going on, are they working, are they not working? We wouldn't have to ask you, it would be right there in a report. As indicated in my email, the subscription fee will be a financial burden to many in our community. Over the past 5 years, 40 to 66% of students attending Luther Public Schools qualified for free or reduced lunches. That's a large amount. Another consideration are those on fixed income or working hourly wage jobs with no benefits. This demographic represents a large portion of the community. An example is a recent house fire a Luther resident experienced. Luther Fire Department did respond. Unfortunately, the home was a total loss. They did not have insurance, and to the best of my knowledge, 2 adults and 7 children lived in this home. As stated above, with the current fire subscription in place, if this family did not pay their $250 subscription fee, they will be sent a bill for the services rendered by Luther Volunteer Fire Department. And based on the fee schedule that was sent out with the letter, this bill could easily be $2,500 or more. It would likely be more. I do not have the specifics of this call. I was just making calculations based on what a routine call would probably take and what would have showed up. So my calculations are merely just estimates or guesstimates, if you would. Chief Figueroa can provide the actual amount to be charged. I'm sure he's aware of the specifics. This family would be required to pay the town of Luther or be sent to collections, and all while recovering from a tragedy. I don't think that this subscription, in the true essence, should be placing more stress and more financial problems on a family like this. I think that we need to be cognizant of that and put things in place so that that doesn't happen. Lowering the subscription fee, dropping the fees for non-subscribers, and supplementing with fundraisers, donation drives, and community outreach by the department would better serve citizens. It would also provide an opportunity for the department to connect with the community in a positive and encouraging spirit, and not only at the time of need or tragedy. Lowering the Again, I'm requesting action on the fire subscription, specifically amending it to a voluntary $25 fee that does not have any negative repercussions should someone not subscribe. There are other ways to generate income for the department, and they should be exhausted before assessing fees to the most vulnerable in our community. Again, the current subscription is not voluntary if fees are attached for those not subscribing. I'm also requesting an advisory board be established with professionals in the community that have background in fire safety and medical. It should include representatives from the unincorporated areas to avoid errant proposals such as this one in the future. And forgive me if that wording is not sensitive. A board comprised of professionals can share information, resources, provide accountability, and give wise counsel to a volunteer department. We have many fire and medical professionals that live and work in the Luther Fire District. Overall, an advisory board would be an asset to the volunteer fire department and the town of Luther. And it would also provide some representation to the unincorporated citizens in the fire district. I did list, and I'm not going to read all those to you, but you can read them. And if any of you all would like a copy of this letter, I'd be happy to provide it to you. It does list, I'd say 8 or 10 different volunteer fire departments and the fees that they request in their subscriptions. There's a bit more information on there as well that I will let you all read. I'm sure you're tired, and you're all tired of hearing from me. I appreciate you listening to me. I appreciate you opening this up for more discussion. Those are my major concerns. I know that everyone that I've spoke to really has different concerns or has a different viewpoint on it. And I'm gonna let them express their concerns as well. And do you have any questions of me?
No, we got a whole bunch of people, but I have questions, well, maybe it'll result in a question. That there's all kinds of issues here that, as much as I would hope and believe in volunteerism, that asking people to voluntarily give money has disappointed me rather routinely in the past.
But we have not tried that.
We haven't tried that, no. So we could, but and $25, I'm not sure whether that would actually make a significant dent in what I perceive as the needs of the fire department. I thank you for bringing up certain things, and there's my head is swimming right now, because the idea that the county provides maintenance, I don't know what level of maintenance it provides. All I know is that the fire department and Chief Brown, when I was first started on the board, were busy every Saturday from the beginning of the day till the end of the day, maintaining vehicles. And I would hear reports that they were buying their own batteries for the vehicles and things like that.
And certainly, I'm just going to interject because I know we do have some retired volunteer firefighters in here. If they should wish to speak to that, they may be able to help.
Most of them are signed up to speak.
Great. They will let you know that.
And then,
it's best that they know since they left the department.
Within this list of about looks like 12 to 14 things, you include Hickory Hills, which they have no subscription, but then they pay a millage on the value of their property. And so, in fact, I think that's not an entirely different type of fire district than Luther is, that once again is financed as a result of millage on property, which, as I stated earlier, is something I'd like to try and avoid, and I'm sure
Right.
those people
And to be
with larger
honest,
properties would like to avoid too.
researching this, it's extremely difficult to compare apples to apples because every fire district, they all have different words. Some of them are fire districts, some of them are fire departments, some of them belong to municipality. So each of them are very different, and they're different in the way that they receive funds. They're different in the way that they get, taxes. And so I did my best to get a good representation of areas that would be rural, like we are, and that would be, I didn't necessarily focus on size, but that would be similar to us, and so that's why I included them.
Okay, and I thought we had done an equivalent survey too, and then part of our initial establishment of the subscription fee was due to our analysis, and I'm confident it included people or departments that, once again, may have been pears instead of apples, that were charging the equivalent of what we had started with, or more.
I worked hard to find a department that charged $250.
Okay.
I could not find one. Can you tell me which one did?
I do. Well, once again, regardless of who collected the data, we thought, I was confident we had data that presented to the board, and so if that data was incorrect, then possibly, most probably, reconsideration is in order. That
Mayor Arps, I do have the data that was collected on ballot 6A, maybe a couple more that we can provide, not tonight, because we have a copy of that. We can do some research, and they're actually were being charged.
250.
okay, thank you.
That's why I would like to go ahead and pass a motion on number 17, that we go ahead and further look into this.
Just wanted to, caveat, they're not paying $250 fee, was that we looked at, as I recall, I may be incorrect, so correct me if I'm wrong, we looked at the actual cost of deploying men and equipment. That was a factor in the decision-making process, was it not?
It was based on if we were to start implementing a pay-per-run program.
Right. So, and then you mean pay-per-call or
Yes,
pay-per-run?
pay-per-run.
To incentivize recruitment. That was one of the reasons that we looked at. One of the,
Did you say to incentivize recruitment?
yes.
Because we need to pay volunteers to,
Per run, not pay volunteers.
okay.
And it's a per run, what a lot of these departments do, the voluntary ones do, is they will pay, $5 or $10 per run, and yearly or biannually, they will receive a check for the runs that they go out and make. Ultimately, what it does is it covers their fuel on their vehicles to get to and from, kind of an incentive thing, but a lot of them do that.
Okay,
One of many.
and then assessing penalty fees. Your second item, assessing penalty fees to those who don't subscribe and encounter a fire medical event. That I don't know. I think you're taking as far as expenses that have been incurred, and you're calling that a penalty. Once again, I don't think we ever viewed that as being a penalty, although any expense.
Well, I beg to differ because the family that you're probably going to send a bill to that didn't have insurance just, a week or two ago, they're gonna receive a bill that they're gonna think that's a penalty.
Well, and then once again.
They have no insurance, they have no home, and they have nowhere to live.
That those are unfortunate circumstances, but those same people get electricity, and when OG&E sends them a bill, that's not a penalty, that's a bill for the services or the product rendered. And so, once again, in our view, I don't think the word penalty ever came up. We are not trying or attempting in any way, shape, or form to penalize anybody.
Yeah, I don't think that's accurate at all.
And so, but that's just a matter of the wording you chose to use versus the wording we were considering at the time. Then also fire report. I removed this from my thing.
Yeah.
Go ahead and pass this off to you.
She provided me with one, but none of that information is available to everyone in the room. It's not posted online. It's not, I mean, how do,
Getting the fire reports on the website.
Okay, we certainly can take that, it's got 3 pages of information. It still does not include all the information that you said might be included in a fire report. In years past, in fact, is up until such time as we had a paid chief, I think it would have been virtually impossible because the chief that we had was working a full-time job and then putting in an incredible amount of time and is almost heroic in his efforts. But there's only so much a person can do, and I don't think he would have been able to compile a report without being grievous. I think we would have hastened his retirement had we asked him to provide a report with the specificity that you think would be helpful to people. And then you mentioned that you're outside the district, and therefore you were not paying as much time to the events of the town and the reports and whatnot. Then that makes me question whether the fire what will probably then become a 5-page fire report will be viewed by any more people on a regular basis than our 3-page, which is available not prior to the meeting, but certainly anybody that requested it could have had it, and so in the future we'll make sure that it's available. But there's a plethora of information that passes through town hall, which is available to anybody. They try and be as transparent as possible, but the broadcasting or publication of information also involves expense, and even if it's not dollars, if we were to get the Luther Register to publish the information for free, then there's still the time for the personnel to compile the information, to submit the information, and then there's the editor of the Luther Register's time, which she has to exert to go ahead and publish it.
But might I add that we're trying to gain support for the fire department. We're trying to
We want people to subscribe, we want them to give a voluntary subscription. There are many people who will give over and above that. But providing this information, the basic information I said, is essential. They need to know where their money's going. They need to see the department in the community. They need to know what fundraisers are happening. They need to have that community connection. And so I don't think that by asking for those things to be in a report that's like over and above far reach. I think that's a basic expectation, especially when you're trying to gain support for the department and we're trying to grow the department, whether it be with more volunteers, as you said, that are needed, or with money.
Trustee Caruthers, you mentioned wanting to be an MFA. One thing that I want to suggest, and this is really kind of falls under the category of legal counsel, is trying to generate refunds for that. You might think about the possibility of allowing that to be, people that have already paid, allow that to be for a 2-year subscription. That's just a practical suggestion.
Well, that was actually gonna be my suggestion,
Okay.
is that if people that have already paid, then they would actually have a credit. Because it would just be almost impossible to do that. We would have to, if they had to have their money back, then, on basis by basis, then they'd have to come in. But other than that, yes, I would offer it as a credit. But I would like to, since we're getting some input, it gives us some ground of where to kind of go. Again, that falls into my number 18. I have no problem of scratching this and starting over.
Mr. Chair, are we gonna allow the rest of the comments, or are we just gonna?
Once again, they were in order, and
Okay.
hopefully the first comment answered a lot of them, so people will say, I pass.
Well, it didn't answer all of mine, so,
Okay, and
if I may, I think I'm number 2.
if you're Phil,
That's me.
go ahead.
Come on,
All
Joe.
right, thank you for this opportunity. I appreciate all that you've done thus far as a board. I will tell you that I moved to the town of Luther because I wanted to be in rural Oklahoma. okay? We're just outside the city limits. We're on the county side of the road, Coffee Creek, on the opposite side of the city limits. When we first moved out there, one of my first things to do was get to know the fire department. So I wanted to burn brush and trees and clean up our property. Let's just say that I got to know the fire department very well after a little fire got away from me.
I was gonna say too well.
So, with that being said, that made my connection with the fire department, and I've been with those folks ever since, through several chiefs, volunteers, and things of that nature. And I have concerns about this ordinance. One, what does it look like when it's working well, is my question, number one. And how did we come up with this $250 fee? I really got a little bit of heartburn with. I want to see the data that got us to this fee and all of the analysis. Get it that we compare apples to oranges and things of that nature? I could care less about what other fire districts are doing. I want to know what Luther's fire district is doing, okay? The fee should be based off of Luther and nobody else, in my opinion. And I still think $150 and $100 is too much,
Okay,
personally.
that's what I need to hear.
Can we do things a little bit better?
Absolutely.
I fully support Ms. Brandy's efforts. I'd write a $250 check if I knew for a fact that it would go directly into an account that was earmarked for the fire department's use only. But I've been a part of town hall meetings in the town for years, and I've seen the ebbs and flows with the funding. So if we're not gonna earmark these funds specifically to the fire department, then I've got a problem with that too. Because I know what happens. We'll need, and we'll sway those funds over to cover something that's probably outside that.
And that was a part of my other, is the wording on the resolution, to where hopefully to keep other incoming people from changing it, to where it would stay there with the fire department.
Spot on.
Unless they change the ordinance.
Yeah,
It was my
that's-
understanding that it's not, yikes.
Actually, I can address this
Please do.
quickly, and that is, the funds are allocated. They are specifically allocated, they go into not like a separate bank account, but they can't move the funds. In fact, they're being maintained separately from the rest of the fire department, right? At this point in time, we decided to create a separate line item to where those funds can only be expended. They can't be moved like to the police department, or to the town manager, or to
Public
the
Works.
town attorney, or public works, or anything else, without a specific budget amendment approved by, hold on, let me
Go ahead,
finish.
go ahead.
By the board of trustees. The other thing is, you asked about, future boards.
Mhm.
You can't bind future boards, I mean, the law won't allow you to do that, but basically, through the budgetary process, every single year, the board of trustees approves the budget that has those line items. And again, they can't be moved without following a specific statutory process. So you can't use it to buy pens or pay the town attorney or do anything else. It can only be utilized for the purposes set forth in the budget that was approved by the Board of Trustees in June of this year.
Okay, so you're saying that they cannot be moved unless the board or future board approves that, correct?
They can't be moved to another purpose.
Correct. So technically, they can be moved if approved.
As part of the
By-
budgetary process.
Exactly. So, that's, in my
But that's the
opinion,
case for everything.
but that's being, in my opinion, That's being transparent. Yeah, they can be moved, but it has to be these 5 positions that would have to move those funds. My eyes, I think we can do a little bit better. Willing to serve on this board or committee or what have you. I'll cut out some time, I'll figure it out. I do think we need to start all over from scratch. That would be my opinion.
Well, that, once again, one of the recommendations that was made by the first speaker was that we establish some sort of a commission or board that would advisory in this nature. And I guess that would that be similar to Parks Commission /
Planning commission.
yes, Planning Commission, as far as being advisory in nature? I mean, do we need to establish something that formal?
You can do that, that's not something that's on the agenda tonight, but, you know, what you would do is ask people if they're interested in serving on the committee and then appointment committee. I would just handle it like an ad hoc advisory committee. I mean, it's actually a really good idea because then you can, you know, hear the concerns and so, you know, before you make any substantial revisions to it, you might listen to what all, because I don't know that this is something that's gonna be fixed in about.
Tonight.
Well, yeah, because I did have some conversations with an attorney that has, discussed this with the group. You know, legally, we agree to disagree because I believe that what the Board of Trustees did was legal. They take a different position, but I don't know that it would be a good use of anyone's time or effort to go fight that battle until everyone sits down and, you know, the board has an opportunity to consider some of the recommendations. Just my thoughts.
Okay.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Jennifer Edmondson?
Great.
My housekeeper looks just the same. Jennifer Edmondson?
Yes, I pay attention to what impacts me. I have no problem speaking to the county board, and I adjusted schedules to be at those meetings a couple weeks ago when they were redistricting us, and the new one for that, so I did those. I have spoken too many times to the school board because those impact me. I'm here tonight even though I'm not under your authority in any way, because something you have done impacts me, and I would like to know what statute you assume some authority under, because if you don't even have the authority, then this whole thing is moot. And the gentleman on the end who stated that they decided how much it would cost to make a run, if you're not even charging those that live in the town, then the full cost of this is borne by those in unincorporated Oklahoma who have absolutely no recourse because we don't get to vote on you. And I think it's extremely inflammatory and unfair if you live in the town that you get to pay a cheaper price because they get to vote on you or whatever than those that live outside of the town. And yes, I do come in here and spend money. I also buy stuff online, and I'll notice Amazon gets it right when I pay my unincorporated Oklahoma County tax. They don't have any, I pay just my state tax. But there are a lot of websites who do not do it right, and I end up paying town tax as well. So I want you to understand that even though we live outside, even some shopping done at my home benefits this town. And let's see what else. That, I think, is most of it. But mostly I would like to know what statute you assume the authority to be able to basically nicely tax us, or however you want to put it, us out there, considering that the county does supply you with what they do.
Do you want me to
She
stand up?
stands for the.
Okay, it's not just a specific, and I went through this with the attorney earlier and provided her with some information that what I indicated I would do is I will prepare a full-blown legal opinion, because it's not just as simple as, okay, you can do this pursuant to this. So, are y'all familiar with each other? is I'll put something together and I'll put it on the website if the board would like for me to do that.
Okay.
I think the website is the appropriate place to
I
post
would
it.
think so.
And then as to your question about, there was always the intent to go back and address the in-town, but we simply started with the out-of-town because there was an increased cost associated with provision to provide the fire protection, distance, runs, wear and tear on vehicles, just, and I won't get into it, but I just want to let you know that did factor into it.
We have that at the town hall as well, if you're gonna do that. Some of us don't do internet and all that kind of stuff. If I have to pick up a copy there.
It absolutely would be, virtually anything that's provided on the website is also gonna be available at the town hall, where the website is named. Okay, Danielle Cheney?
I think my issues have been addressed, but my concern was just the authority that the town was proceeding under, because nobody that I've asked has been able to give me a statute that says that a town can impose fees on non-residents. So it seems to me that the board is imposing on non-residents who have no voice, no vote, and no say in anything, fees, and it seems to be overarching, reaching beyond what you should be able to do. And absent a statute, I'm just not sure that this board has legal authority to do what they're doing. So I've asked for that for several weeks now. Some was provided to me at 4 o'clock, which I respectfully disagree with what was provided with me, and so I'll anxiously await the information that she provides
And so will I, because I'm intrigued by the question myself, because if the town of Luther, which oversees the fire department, has no authority outside the town of Luther, then does that mean that we need to retract the fire district to inside town limits, and then anybody outside town limits will be governed by the county?
Then
Well, then I think you're
that's
gonna
what
lose your
we're-
fire trucks and your
Yeah,
maintenance.
then you'll lose all the stuff that the county provides
Well,
you.
we're-
as
Because
well.
you've been given.
Not all of it, because the town is, I believe, still part of the county, or, once again, it's an intriguing thought, and all the repercussions of it. I can't wrap my head around them here as, in a matter of just a few seconds, but it's a matter of representation. You want to be represented by the fire department, and yet not. Once again, I don't even know how to phrase it, as far as, you want to be covered by the fire department, and yet the agency that represents the fire department has to make decisions, and in your case, you're saying you don't have representation. Solutions to that is, please join the town, please let, now, that goes over like.
Well,
like
some
that.
of us have joined the town, and some of us spend countless hours serving this town.
Exactly,
So,
and I appreciate
we're
your
there.
citizenship in that. Once again, some efforts are much greater than others, and I've talked to people, and some of them want to be recognized, and some of them don't. But all of them, whether they get public recognition or not, I thank them for their efforts.
I just think the biggest thing that we would appreciate is to know what the legal authority is that you're operating under.
I think that's well within your rights.
If you can't tell me a statute, then I'm concerned.
Well, and there's one thing I will say is, it really is a complex issue. I know that it sounds easy to say, okay, we want to be able to point to a statute. There is statutory authority for the town to provide fire protection services outside. But it's sort of like, and not to oversimplify it, but we want to see statutory authority that authorizes the town manager to purchase a pen. So I will get that term, I will take the time to do it, and I'll make it available to the board and for everyone else.
If the fire district does shrink, you're gonna lose those funds that are assessed for a burn permit. Because every year, I do brush management, and I pile it up, and I write out the check, get the approval and all of that kind of stuff on an annual basis. So if the district shrinks, then you're gonna lose a little bit of
There's
revenue.
repercussions in all directions, but, you know, henceforth, unless you're recognized, you turn out,
No problem.
Mrs. Woods is next up. Casey?
Okay, thank you again for your time, and, I'd just like to start by saying I back everything that has been said by the citizens so far. I agree, I've had these conversations, I've talked to my neighbors, most of whom can't be here tonight. But I agree with Carla, I think the best thing you can do is go back to the drawing board, and all of that, again, is dependent upon whether this is legally, sound to do. So, to keep it quick, I won't go on and explain myself, but I do have some questions I would like answers for. If you have them now, great, if you don't, then I will submit them in an email to everyone. It's been mentioned that in the letter, the way the letter read, that whatever your insurance doesn't cover, you will be billed for. What is our process for filing insurance?
Very first question out of the gate, I wish the fire chief were here, because this is something that apparently we've been eligible to be able to do for some time, but haven't. And I can't explain. I can't explain why it was never addressed, or why it was never attempted before in the past. And so, earlier in the meeting, someone said they'd like to see how it's gonna work. Well, that's gonna take a year to see how, whatever we do, it's gonna take a year to see if it's successful, if it's unsuccessful, if it raises enough money, if it doesn't raise enough money, if volunteerism works or volunteerism doesn't work.
Right.
But that has not been fully addressed, and I don't think we've had enough,
In my
enough
opinion, that would
events.
be that would be the first place. I mean, those that are utilizing the service file their insurance guaranteed money for someone that is utilizing that service. I have no, I can't argue with that. If you show up and put out a fire at my house, insurance paying you. And I want to support the department beyond, I don't mind, donating to the fire department. I know there is a need, they're growing needs. I just feel like the letter came out as more threatening than it could have, and that you could have educated your audience better on what the needs and goals of this department are, and what is being done to better the department, and how you serve us currently before you put us at an ultimatum. So, I'm just gonna say that, I'll proceed with the rest of my questions. Does the town of Luther and Luther Fire Department have a plan for the funds received by the subscription and or bills paid for services rendered that I'm sure directly approved? That's already been answered. I do think this is going to come up when a call is dispatched. Who is that dispatched to? Is Luther the first response? How many responders do we have? How many people are certified to respond to those needs? I think that needs to be addressed when we go back to the drawing board.
Okay, and once again,
I can answer those, so.
that changes with the number of volunteers, because we essentially have only
Currently.
one paid member of the fire department, that's the chief. He's here on a regular basis, daytime hours, 5 days a week.
And is he certified to wear an SCBA and go into a home and rescue someone?
I can't answer for it, but I tell you what, that he came to us highly qualified, and since that time has spent at least a large fraction of his paid time to ensure that all of his qualifications, not only as a technician, but as an instructor, are up to snuff, so that he can go ahead and save time and money for new recruits by actually providing instruction to them.
Yeah.
So I think,
And like I say, these are all questions, you have a lot of firefighters that live in your district that y'all may not be aware of, that are Edmond, Oklahoma City, surrounding the departments, that, some of these questions are coming from when presented with the letter.
Peg is working on doing continuing education. He is actually qualified to do what you just said.
Okay.
To clarify that, not all of them are, no.
Right.
And he is working, as a matter of fact, he is sent out tonight, and it was sent out to me, because there's a free class that's going on for hazardous materials that he's recommending, and as many of these guys can take these classes as they come up, they're taking them.
Right, and I understand that takes money.
So-
I think it would be, again, back to my education.
Oh, no, that's a
if
free
you-
one.
Well, that's correct. If you can educate these, whoever you're asking for support and or a subscription from, if you can educate them on what your goals are, what you're doing, this is going to go a lot further with everyone. And maybe some, it may not, but I know for the people I've talked to, I think it would help. And I really like the idea of Brandy's, the report, just keeping people educated and knowing what you're doing.
Where would you suggest that for that report, the issue of distribution of information has come up? The drum was banged quite a bit on the last meeting, and so how would you suggest the town could best distribute that information without incurring additional cost? Because for the letter, obviously the first letter you got was the one that announced the subscription. But for every letter we put out, I think I made a quick estimate of about $700 to put out a letter to those people that would have been.
But you're talking about two different issues right now. You're talking about one is you're talking about including the people in the unappropriated area when an ordinance is going to be passed. That's completely different than posting a fire department report or a police department report.
No, actually, it's conjoined, because we're talking about putting out information in an effective manner, and so on
multiple platforms.
Yes.
Well, I'm on the Parks Commission, and who gets the mustard seed? We think that this is awesome. We love the mustard seed. Everybody, I'm sure that's not cheap to send out. But we've had, our struggles getting volunteers, and then, you talk to someone and they didn't know there was an opportunity. Yes, I believe the communication between the town and, it's a rural community. It's difficult, but I really, in retrospect, your first letter could have been more of an educational outreach. Please come to us. Let's give you this opportunity to, hear our needs, hear what, we would like to see. These are our thoughts, that kind of thing. I don't know. Half the people, most people are on Facebook. Just make it as available as you can, but your first communication with your community cannot be a $250 subscription letter. That's my opinion. That time since 2020.
So did I understand you right that you think, the town newsletter, or the town website, Facebook, that's would be
Well, I think
adequate?
if we know that information's there, that's great. But you're asking me how best to reach everyone. I don't know. I don't know, because we have that
I
problem
heard
too.
the gentleman, excuse me, I apologize for interrupting.
No, that's okay.
He said he does not go online, he
Yeah.
gets mail.
Right.
There are other, there's a combination, of different age groups of people that communicate differently. So you could cover, with letters, you could get online, the mayor and I could, do videos, some sort of.
But anybody who doesn't regularly get online, it dawned on me, we can put it on the Luther Register. Oh, wait a minute, the Luther Register, you're required to go online to look at the Luther Register, and get that in your email.
Well,
And so-
I'm sorry to get off point onto the communication.
I did that.
I'll just sum it up. I back up what they're saying. I think that we need an education, a plan for accountability, and how is this gonna be executed? We need to understand as the people in your extended fire district, what the value of any subscription or fee is, or if you have a fundraiser, do that. But,
I think you're looking at the plan for accountability.
And then once again,
Happening now.
hopefully that within the crowd, you've asked for an advisory board, we can get an advisory board done and they can help us
you
make
have
these
so
decisions.
many resources in your district that are very
Good.
knowledgeable in fire. And JT being one of them, I can fill the ward if you would like for me to. So, of people that have experience and live here and would love to help.
Thank you. Greg Atkinson?
Yes.
Oh, excuse me, you were for item 20, and we're not there. Wait, yikes.
Good catch.
Don't want to jump, unless you have something for the fire item, this item you want to do.
99% of it has been covered, and the best way to communicate with people, he doesn't do the internet, I can't spell Facebook, good luck with that. So, a public computer someplace,
Library.
you know.
There's the librarians jumping out.
We have, at the plant that I work at, we have terminals located throughout the plant where anybody can walk up, log in. So maybe that's something to be considered.
Okay.
A terminal in the lobby area where someone can walk up, punch up the website, look at it right there.
Well, there, some of our items for those that are, have, bad fingers, on the keyboard, that we publish them on a bulletin board. And so some of that stuff is just open for reading, and we may need a bigger bulletin board.
That's why I said good luck with trying to figure all that out.
Thank you for your wishes.
Can I say one more thing? I forgot.
No.
Please?
Yes, you can.
Okay, I forgot to mention the ISO. At the last meeting that our chief spoke, he, and I'm not sure if it was in the letter or not, the ISO ratings have been mentioned as an incentive to people in this, the extended district, for improving the fire department, if we're gonna lower your, get your ISO rating lowered. If you live 5 miles away from a fire department, you're not getting your ISO improved, more than likely. I don't know what we stand out now, what is it? 7, okay.
As long as you're within 7
In
miles.
town, in Edmond, who has 5 going on 6 departments, is 1. As soon as you get out of Edmond, out of main town of Edmond, they go up to, it's probably, I think it's 7 or 8. JT, do you know?
Well,
It's not, it's
parts that are
as
10.
we are. There are parts of town that is low, but that is a false statement, and he needs to avoid selling the subscription or any sort of donation on an ISO rating.
ISO rating?
Yeah. JT, get surprised, welcome to my world. Okay. Ms. Haven?
Well, I will speak on the ISO thing, as I did before. Luther is a 7, and we're lucky enough that if you're within 7 miles, you get a 7.
7 miles.
Within 7 miles, you get a 7, because Luther's a 7. If you're more than that, it's a 9 or a 10. But if you're close to this Oklahoma City Fire Department out here, then you get a 3. Big difference.
Huge.
Big difference, yes. So, this $250 subscription at this time really looks bad. First question everybody asks is, what's my discount on my insurance? Nothing. To get less than a 7, you guys have to be able, the water tower has to replenish quick enough, gotta be able to fill so much so quick. You're a long ways from getting that changed. So, something you need to think about. That letter, we did get a lot of calls and a lot of questions. That's what got us involved. Because, next thing they say, well, then I'm gonna shop around. So you guys are hurting our business, our local business, by putting that letter out. Second of all, not to degrade any fireman on the fire department, but the fire department has been very rocky, on and off in years. Be great for a while and then it goes down. FR gives $500 a year to every Oklahoma County Fire Department. I couldn't even get anybody to come get the check. 3 years, those checks sat in my office. I'd call town hall, I'd see the fire chief, nobody come and get it. So we said, Luther doesn't get it anymore because they don't appreciate it.
Previous fire chief?
Let's phrase it.
Pre-fire chief.
Okay, yeah.
Wasn't the last one, wasn't this one.
Don't need a name.
They haven't got that option. I mean, we gave $1,500 to them when they went and fought the Woodward fire. They wouldn't even come get the check. Had to come to a town meeting to bring the check.
What does AFR stand for? I'm sorry.
American Farmers and Ranchers Insurance.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
They're the local insurance
again,
agency.
you weren't at the meeting, but we are the local insurance agency. We write for many companies.
Okay.
So, commercial, health, life, farm, home, you name it, we do it.
And I can't speak for the past, and I can't
No.
speak for the future beyond my tenure here. But for the period that I'm here, I can virtually guarantee that if you call the fire chief and say you've got a check for him, that
That's
there's gonna be a
exactly,
knock on the door.
that's exactly what I heard last time, and it didn't happen.
You know,
That's exactly what I heard last
I do
time.
understand why people are hesitant to.
So, also, I mean, all we gotta do is get together and this fire department have a good reputation. And we can get those funds back. But we also brought up, and I know this isn't really the fire department, but the fire department's name is on it. The portraits that they go around and sell every year, and everybody gives them $20, and then they never show up and do the portraits. That's gone on for a long time, and that's Luther Fire Department's name.
I don't even know about that program.
I don't even know.
We talked to you about that the other day
I
after
brought
the
them
meeting.
down to that meeting and I handed them.
Those slips we brought, there's a man,
I remember this.
he goes around every year and he sells $25, $20 for a free portrait, family portrait. And they come to town and set up and take family portraits.
Yes, and
Everybody does it,
the chief was there as well.
but they don't ever, the
Yeah,
last 2
so, and I refer
years.
that to my police department tomorrow, or if they, or your earliest opportunity, because that's.
Tell them to come, we got the slips, they can come and get them. That shows where we
Yeah.
bought them and who it is and all that. I know it's a guy doing fundraising for the fire department, but everybody thinks it's Luther Fire Department.
Didn't we
Well,
discuss
yes.
something about maybe another?
Those
person?
things need to get cleaned up.
Okay,
And
Well,
we
let's-
need to all be
once again,
once together.
We agree, yeah, we agree.
That's basically all.
okay, and,
Thank you.
Oh,
next,
wait.
next to the last one,
There was
Sabrina.
one more question. This is a question I get asked often. How many of you guys have to pay the $250? Is that fair? Is that discrimination? That's what I get asked all the time. How many of them have to pay it?
The rollout of the program intended to, and some people were aware that there was a differentiation between in-town and out-of-town, and I.
That letter doesn't say that though.
No, but the,
That came up later when we had that little meeting.
it actually came up at the very first meeting, and I'm embarrassed to say that the letter went out with my signature on it, because I thought that both the in-town and out-of-town subscriptions were being rolled out together, but they weren't. And then even then, there'd be complaints because there was a differentiation, a discrimination on the basis of what we thought were factors that caused the out-of-town to be more expensive to the fire department. I'm about to talk myself into a problem, council, stop me before I kill myself.
It's fine.
But yes.
Just gotta
I-
stay on topic, so, I mean, because we are getting way off, so we need to.
Okay, and so, but once again, this, I guess a lot of these issues, other than the one of the fraudulent contracts for portraits, address that with the police department, and if you don't have anything else, I got 2 more.
Done.
That was Sabrina. Am I repeating myself?
Yeah. No, I think most of my issues have been addressed, Randy, I'm sorry, Katrina, Casey, everybody. I support all of these things. I do think that it needs to be scrapped, take back to the drawing board. I like the committee thing. I'll be happy to donate some time to that from the insurance standpoint, to help you guys with that. Mitzi, I'm sure can do that, fill in if I can't be there or something like that. Also, just a suggestion, maybe to reach out to some of your elders in the community. I think every Tuesday,
Senior
senior citizens have a meeting at noon every Tuesday. maybe one of you guys need to go down and talk to them.
Technically, is that a meeting or is that a lunch?
That's a luncheon, but
Luncheon.
that
I
may be a
don't-
way to reach out to some of your elderly community.
I qualify too.
Or people who don't do Facebook,
It's-
internet, things like that.
Yeah, once
That may
again,
be a
I,
suggestion.
I don't know who manages that or whether they allow
I can
speaking without.
certainly ask.
So-
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's a luncheon and you can go visit with your town members.
It's a great opportunity to connect with people in the community.
Maybe people who don't have Facebook, internet, things like that.
Okay.
What time?
Noon.
Every Tuesday.
Every Tuesday.
Well,
I mean, give or
they may
take
take
it.
off for Christmas or something, I don't know. Sherry will know though, because she goes. So you can do that. I mean, I don't know. Yeah.
And let's pitch in right here that Miss Peters makes the food, and it's always fantastic. Well, I hear. I haven't been, but I've loved watching her menu.
And you're expecting a Christmas card?
The mayor now knows about the senior lunch.
JT, you're the last, because everything hadn't been, that you had to say hadn't been covered.
Yeah,
Here I go.
I've just been kind of listening to what everybody has said, trying to your remarks back, so I just kind of made a little list of notes here, so we talked about county maintenance on trucks. Yeah, county does do maintenance. Now previously, we did the maintenance on our own. We did small maintenance. We did oil changes, those things. That's because we were all volunteer. We didn't have time to run them to Choctaw to have it done. But there is the ability to do that at any time. There are county trucks, they will take care of those trucks because they want those trucks to operate and they don't want to have to fix them later down the road. So with the paid chief, he's got the time and ability, he could do that a little more, but you know, the town just paying for it all, it's because we chose to, and it was allowed. So that's why we did it for, just mainly to save time, because as you all said, you're volunteers, you don't have time to look at everything or go through everything. We don't need it, especially when we're going to calls in the middle of the night and during the day. So we chose to do it when we had time, when we had opportunity up here in the bay, in the fire station. We talk about getting paid for volunteer fire departments or for the guys running. That is few and far between. There's not a lot to do that because of tax issues. And personally, if you're a volunteer, if you're doing it to be a volunteer, you shouldn't be doing it to get money. I mean, if it's a hardship for you to be there, it's a hardship for you guys to sit here and go through and figure out this paperwork and do research, maybe it's not the spot for you at the moment. Maybe it's a later date thing. I've talked to the departments around here that are volunteer, and they are very upset that that's even an option for Luther because they fear the spirit of being a volunteer firefighter is being degraded by that. And like I said, you get tax issues for the town and these both. So now, depends on what you pay, you become an employer. Does it push them into a different tax bracket? Because now they're gonna have to claim it on their taxes as well. So those are some items. And you can research it online all day about departments that pay that. We have a fire system in place now that's all software. All reports should be done pretty easy. All run reports have to be put into it. You hit a few buttons, report shoots out. Should be able to get all the information that any of these people ask for. All the fire chief reports have been posted online on the town website previously. I know John Brown did the fire reports all the time as well. I'm not sure why. I know he had a job, but I texted him and he said, yes, I did fire reports all the time. So that was done. So our chief, right now, we'll just put them online. We can figure a lot of stuff out. It was 2019 was the last one that had a full load. We've talked many times about the equipment. Town does own some, but probably 60% comes from county. So that would take care of a lot of maintenance if we dealt with them on stuff. We talked about, charging for this and the legality, and there's a lot of legal things. I've looked at them all, and I'm not an attorney, but I see several things that I could see being argued each way. One thing I did see on it, that it is considered a utility service. And I think Beth Anna's looked at probably some of that too. So you gotta be real careful what you're spending on. You're talking water towers, buildings, salaries, let's see if that's an ability or not to be in a utility services. And then we're talking about cost. You know, you're talking about the 250 and you decided it's more for out of town, the cost to go out of town. Well, then did you have reports that show how many calls are out of town and how many are inside the town limits in proper? I mean, not just Luther proper, but town limits. I've asked for those a couple of times and I still haven't got them at any time. So, I mean, if 90% of your calls are outside, north of Coffee Creek and south of Memorial, or wherever it is, 150th, I can see that. You know, I can see where those costs would be stringent and we need to push it out there, but, you know, if, I know when I was on there, maybe 20% of our calls was outside of the actual Luther town limits. So, you know, if we're gonna charge and try and get all our maintenance from this small group that we run on, instead of the actual group that does all the calls or receives all the calls, maybe we need to look at that a little different. And, like I said, you know, we all pay taxes. I'm fighting this, not because of me, and it's not a problem to me, but there are a lot of town folk, a lot of country folk, a lot of farmers, that this is gonna be a huge burden on them. I mean, we talked about this family south of town. I'm sure there's people in this room that if $250 was whether they ate, paid their bills, or what, and then they're getting hit with $2,500. Who around here can just spit out that type of money and still be okay? There are people here, but I bet you there's some in this room, and I know there's some outside of this door that can't do that. And that's what I'm here for. I'm here to protect them. Somebody needs to. So we got some issues with it.
Okay, thank you. Carla, I still think you're on the board here. That was number 17.
I'm still on the board, thinking about scratching number 18. Number 18 was consideration, discussion, and possible action to discuss the wording and, of course, sending out a notification to in-town residents requesting their input.
I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, go ahead.
We need to either have no action
17,
or some
do
type
something with
of action
17.
on 17.
Oh, on 17. Well, I'm gonna make the motion that I made earlier that we scrap it and start over.
Second.
I'm gonna jump in for just a second on that,
Okay.
because, I mean, from a legal perspective, because
People-
repealing the resolution, and then, I mean, that would result in her immediately refunding all the money.
Okay.
So from a legal perspective, I have concerns about that, so my suggestion might be to table it to the meeting in January, and then what that will do is that will, create an opportunity for you all to appoint a committee, and then bring folks in, and it sounds like the direction of the board, though, right at this moment, is not to expend any of those funds whatsoever, and I think that those are being preserved. So then that will give the board an opportunity to meaningfully consider, which direction you go after that. But I think that just eliminating the resolution and then sitting on the money back, frankly, also from a, a litigation standpoint, that would probably not be the wisest course of action.
Does make a lot of sense. So then I will make a motion that we table it to our meeting in January. And I will work on seeing if we can't get another board put together.
Committee.
A committee, I mean, not a board, a committee put together to help do some of the work on this. To get some of this other stuff figured out so that we can go forward. Do I have a second?
Okay, Terry?
Yes.
Brian? Carla?
Yes.
Yes.
Some of you know how to get a hold of it. If you're interested, there was some.
There was a second to the scrapping of the motion.
Yes, it
Yes,
was.
there was.
Yes, it was seconded.
Of the original motion. Yeah, Terry seconded. There was.
No, just scrap.
obviously, it creates a lot of trust when you have to creates a lot of trust with the community when you're willing to go back to drawing board.
Well, that's what I wanted to do, is take it back to the drawing.
And I
But if
agree
we
with that, because
leave it to where it is, where
you
it's
can-
nothing touched, nothing done, that eliminates her having to send out all the refunds and get all that taken care of. Just leave it there until we can get the rest of the stuff. In other words, no more billing, no more nothing until we can get everything else drawn up and re-figured out where we're all on an even playing field.
So no one's billed if they have a fire and haven't played.
Correct.
Or, yeah.
Correct.
Does that language need to be in the the motion?
With that language,
Do they just vote no, and then we go
Yeah.
the way you want it?
There was a motion to scrap it. There was a
That's
second.
what, we need to wait until, like, if there was a second. Now, a lot of municipalities utilize different rules of order. And frankly, I can't remember which one we did, but I do think in order to address it, we probably need to go back to it, but we need to wait till trustee Arps comes back. So perhaps we could move the rest of the agenda and then come back to it.
Still a quorum. Still quorum.
go back to the next.
But because he was the one that made the second, so it's why would we do that without him being here? So that's my, or we can wait till he comes back. You know. Okay. Mayor, we have a second on the first motion, so, one way to handle this procedurally is if trustee Caruthers would be willing to amend her motion to table it, then she can make a motion that her original motion to not, I can't remember the language, but are you amenable to amending your motion?
I am amenable to amending my motion to
Okay.
change it, to tabling it. Therefore, nobody else will be charged for, let's table it, put it on hold.
All right. Now, do we have a second?
Second.
Now, I would take a vote.
Mary?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Carla?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
And John?
Yes.
Back to number 18, consideration, discussion, and possible action to discuss the wording and sending notifications to in-town residents requesting their input regarding the fire subscription program.
Counselor, do you think it would be advisable to take no action or table this as well?
Oh, I mean, if you want to get feedback from citizens,
I
I
wanna
think
get-
it's probably a good idea.
Yeah, I would like to get the feedback from the rest of the citizens as well. Not just our out-of-towners. I think the people in town also need to put their 2 cents in.
I agree.
And I'm all for, getting a letter written, an educational type pamphlet, and getting it sent, and inviting them to our meeting, whether it be in January or in February, and let's get their input.
I'll buy the ream of paper.
Do what?
I'll buy the ream of paper.
Why just?
Give his name.
Because the out-of-town people have already been notified.
Oh.
Well,
Not threatening.
The unincorporated.
I had no, really. Well, then maybe we need to just resend it to everybody in and out. A re-education, letter.
Or an opportunity to come
Or an
and be involved
opportunity
and
to
share their
come.
concerns.
Correct.
Prior to reinstituting a subscription.
Correct.
Was there a motion there?
Oh, sorry. No, I make a motion that we get a letter out and get it sent to, in and out of town people.
Was there anybody that signed up to speak on that?
Number 18?
No. Oh, actually, everybody that signed up for 17 looks like it's 17, 18.
Well, I guess no, I haven't seen the sign.
Rather than go down the list, is there anybody who wishes to speak to item number 18?
So we're gonna generate a new letter to go to everybody,
Yes.
letting us know that there's a meeting to discuss.
Yes.
All right.
Well, I was just gonna do it for in town, but it was just brought to my attention,
I think we need to be as transparent as
by
possible.
Dr. Jeff,
Have
yes.
one meeting that everybody attends, because
Exactly.
if I get wind that out of towners are getting different information than in town, then that's not being transparent.
I want you all to know what's going on, whether you're in town or out of town. I'm a citizen here too. And I'm looking at having to pay this as well. So I want to, even though I have a business in town and I talk to people who come and sit in my chair, you know, some of them have told me, says, I don't care, I'm not gonna worry about it, I'm not coming to no meeting, just send it to me. Okay, fine. You know, but I figure you might wanna know. But if I feel like if we do send that letter out that we didn't send out before and get your attention and say, hey, this is going on, here's your opportunity to come and talk to us, then I'm starting off on a better foot than what we did before.
What date do you want to put on the letter?
Do y'all wanna table it to the January, is it 11th meeting? Or is that enough time to get mailers out? No. So I'm thinking maybe table it to the February meeting.
I was gonna say, just by way of suggestion, you might actually have it as a special meeting and start a couple of hours before.
Okay.
That way the board can conduct their business and, there's not a rush.
Okay.
So just my suggestion.
And we can put that in there too, probably start earlier or have a special meeting altogether.
I need some specifics for the motion.
I make a motion that we get the letters written. I need to get my date book out. And I don't have to explain it. Either to have our meeting on the 8th of February or hold a special meeting.
Council, do you intend that special meeting to be prior to the regular meeting?
Exactly, yes.
Yeah, same date.
Same date, just starting earlier, or?
That would be mine. I mean, people have to work, you wanna consider that, but if you started at, say, at 5.
I was gonna say, could we like start at 5 o'clock?
Will all board members be present?
I would sure hope so, I will be.
Most likely.
It's an announced meeting. If we can make it, we'll be there.
I didn't know the intent, or if it would just be.
No, it should be all of us.
Okay.
So I'll make a motion that we,
Is that Tuesday, February the 8th?
that is Tuesday, February the 8th.
And will the fire chief be present then too?
I will
If he's
request
healthy.
his presence.
Okay.
So yes, if he's healthy, he'll be here.
He has been at all previous meetings.
He did apologize, he sounded pretty bad.
Okay, we'll have a second.
Second.
Terry?
Yes.
Brian? Carla?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Josh?
Yes.
Number 19, consideration, discussion, and action to ratify the purchase of 2018 Chevy Tahoe from the Kansas Highway Patrol in the amount of $31,700 for the fire chief's emergency response vehicle. That, with the last meeting, whenever we approved for him to purchase the vehicle, but they did not have it ready yet. And then when they did get the one ready, they ended up letting it go to somebody else.
And the reason that I recommended that we put it on for ratification is even though the board had already approved it, I felt for transparency's sake that it was a really good idea just to memorialize it.
And while the chief isn't here to answer this, I believe this is still, we did not specify a specific amount at the last meeting, but this is still within the budget.
Yes.
And he has had great difficulty locating a.
Oh,
He's
yes.
been looking for a while, and of course, the emergency response vehicle is being replaced as a result of an accident that totaled the last one, and so we've been without one for several months. Motion?
I make a motion that, accept it as written.
Second?
Terry?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Carla?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Josh?
Yes.
And this always bumfuzzles me as far as going into executive session, counselor.
Yes, what you need to do, and actually, is you would need to entertain a motion to go into executive session. There'll be a motion, a second, and then we will,
Clear the room.
clear the room.
Yeah, I apologize to anybody here that wanted to wait until item 20.
The other thing, the other thing you
21.
could do, if you like, is you could, okay, wait, hold on, I'm sorry, let me look at my agenda real quick.
We have item
Yes,
20,
they are.
proposed executive session,
Yeah.
and proposed action items to be considered and discussed.
Right, I mean, the other thing that you could do, because that's the only thing is the action item afterwards, but if anybody I wasn't sure if anybody wanted to hang around, because you could always, table the executive session and the action, but you might just kind of ask the audience if anybody else is interested in staying, or go on to the municipal authority. There are a lot of different ways.
Mr. Atkinson specifically signed up to speak to item, he wrote down 20, but I think it's 21, the proposed action. He has the opportunity to address the board. And so,
I'm sorry, I thought, is that you?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I thought maybe it was you want to speak on that item too.
On 20 or 21, I just, an
Okay, gotcha.
opportunity to make comment.
21 is the executive session, 21 is the
Okay, I
discussion
apologize,
consideration
I'm
action.
just trying to keep it
And so, yes.
flowing, but then I would entertain a motion to go into executive session, and then, after that motion is approved, we'll clear the room, have the executive session in accordance with the Open Meeting Act, and then after you come back, then you can entertain, comments on 21.
Okay. You propose to go into executive session?
I mean, if you want to hear what he has to say in advance, I mean, you can do that as well.
I mean, generally, there are some folks in town who are concerned about appointing the treasurer position versus it having been elected. Of course, had a vote on that, it passed. But it just brings up the thought, the wonder of where the transparency, if we lose transparency, if we lose check and balance, if we lose, overall vision of what was originally intended. And that's just it.
Now,
You know,
the question, tap your pen if I start going out of the way. That the issue of checks and balances, the clerk does not have a voting or an objecting role as far as checks and balances on the board. Now, he can tell on us, once again, or if we started to do something that he detected that the counselor didn't, where we were leaving decorum or the proper procedures.
Please understand, this is not any kind of reflection on any current individuals. It's just, before the treasurer was voted on, and then the town voted to make it out an appointed position. But then here we are again, just combining it in one, as it happens to be Sherry. If there's a monetary compensation that might go with the additional, I'm just looking for.
There's currently a monetary compensation for the clerk and for clerk treasurer and the floodplain manager. I think the amounts of those are a little bit out of balance, but nevertheless, they are what they are until such time as there's an ordinance change. That the town manager has been fulfilling those rules since the sudden resignation of the previous court treasurer. And as I pointed out in articles, I think on our Facebook page and in the Luther Register, that the availability, the desired availability and qualifications of such a person was a consideration. In the town of Luther, I'm sure we have people that could do the job incredibly well, but they're already doing something else. And the amount of time that it takes for the clerk to do their job, and especially the treasurer, I mean, I wouldn't step into that position because I don't have the economics. Are you tapping your head already? Okay.
Okay.
You want to speak?
You might entertain the motion. Go into executive session.
Sorry, I didn't jump to 21. Actually, there's been a motion that was by Brian. I second it. Yes?
Carla? Yes. Jeff?
Yes.
Josh?
Yes. And Mr. Atkinson, please stay if you can, but if not, we understand.
Okay, we're all leaving the room for executive session. I probably won't go back on live tonight, but was this better than Netflix and TV? I'm telling you, this was a great meeting. So much better than watching TV. I hope you watched. And Karen, if you're listening, I am sorry about that. Volume, it was my fault. I'll send you an inbox about it, and so you can laugh at me.
I hate to jump to that.
But I'm going to go off here. Thanks, y'all, for watching. And the saga continues.